names are so, like, they're so similar in the show. It's hard to. I know there's a lot of people in this show that are important, so it's also that.
A lot of Asian.
Yeah, there's a lot of Asian people
names.
in this show. I think there's a lot of Japanese presence in this show. I think it stems from Japanese culture, possibly. I don't know.
Might be based in an Asian city. Somewhere in Asia.
Feeling sushi come up.
We are coming to you live, pre-recorded, from the Hizzy, the studio, the Cribby, here with Mr. House, Joshua, and over to him, Dylan. Today we're going to be talking about our opinions on Tokyo Ghoul, one of the most pervasive, significant animes I think that's ever been adapted to the format of anime. So, Josh, what do you, because you haven't seen it for the longest time, it's been the longest since you've seen it, what do you remember, what do you think about the series as a whole?
It's been one of the first 5 animes I've ever actually seen. It was one of the first 5.
I'm in like the same boat for when I watched the first 2 seasons.
It was my 4th, I believe.
I think I watched it
4th.
It was after Death Note I watched it. And Death Note was my second one. It was Naruto, Death Note, then Tokyo Ghoul. One of the first animes where that first season, it was so addictive or whatever. I stayed up to in the wee morning hours to watch it because it was so good. And
Understood.
the second season, people hate on the second season because it's not canon forever. I don't read manga. I didn't read it, so I don't care. I thought season 2 was great.
Like it strays from the manga a good bit.
It seems to be the case with a lot of anime.
Yeah.
Yeah, but especially people talk about season 2 about that, and I love season 2 I didn't know at the time that it was like that. I loved it, and obviously season 3 was super confusing for me, but it's always been very beloved. The aesthetic, the characters have always been super. I don't know. It's always been fun. It's really nostalgic now to think about it.
I feel like I might be more passionate about it overall than you.
Probably.
Because I've been attached to this show for a while. It's genuinely, it's pretty significant to me. So what would you say you thought overall, especially the ending? What did you think overall?
Now that I've rewatched it, and I like you said, 2 days ago, the first time I watched it was about 6 to 8 months ago. I'd say probably more towards, probably 6 to 8 months ago. It was my 6th anime I ever watched, and honestly, at the time when I watched it, I know everybody loves Attack on Titan, but it was on par, and I watched all 3 seasons, so I watched everything immediately. And I'd say it was on par at first, but now that I just rewatched it, it was worse than I remember. That's for sure. It's still really good, but season 3 was worse than I remember. I remember when I first watched it, it was the worst season, but it got even worse. Like Kim was saying, it's honestly, I wouldn't say it's skippable, but you should watch it. It's important.
Yeah.
It's watchable. It's not something where you're gonna dread yourself the whole time.
I really have to say about it in general. I want to get my foot in the frame.
Perfect.
Something to say in general about it, and so the thumbnail is very hyperbolic. It says bad, and that's for marketability. First off,
of course.
Ultimately, the absolute ending to anything, giving a visible end, a palpable, digestible end to a character's story, there's value in that, even if it's, in my opinion, mediocre. It was nice seeing the end to characters that I really liked.
Yes.
I just remember the ending. The ending, I tried to be sad and it's the end of the show at the end, but I was kind of forcing myself to. It just because season 3 was such a confusion. It was so confusing,
especially at the beginning. Yes.
Oh my god! And then the end, it was just bing bang boom. All these things happen, and I'm just it's the end. But trying to force myself to care.
Because the main things I have gripes about, I wrote them down, would overall be the pacing. Because if I had to backtrack here on why I like Tokyo Ghoul so much, why it's so significant to me, and why I like it as much as I do, is that the first season, in my opinion, is the best first installment, first chapter, first implement of a story, period. It's my favorite fiction piece to exist that I know of right now. I love it so much.
It's up there for me. It's not my favorite, but it's up there.
Like if I put it this way, something I find super interesting about the first season is that within 12 episodes, they set up Kaneki. You understand him a little bit. You see him become a ghoul, and he's like actively needing to deal with that. They set up Algiri. They set up the CCG a good bit, and they set up Motto
as well.
Yeah, they set up Motto from the CCG, and he specifically sticks out in my mind because within 8 episodes, I looked into this to be sure, he dies in the 8th episode. Within 8 episodes, they somehow set up this side character, establish him as this manic, insane, fucking monster human, and
the old guy.
That's the old investigator with like
him.
the squint. I like him too.
Yeah,
for how evil he is, I like him.
Yeah, and on top of that, you didn't expect him to die that quickly because he seemed like an overpowered character.
Yeah, I kind of did.
First.
Yeah, like his death.
At least to me,
his death kind of does feel a little abrupt, but I feel like the fact that in 8 episodes he gets so fleshed out, you as the viewer are able to palpably hate him. Like he's so deplorable.
I did not like him.
Like within 8 episodes, it's set up that he's that bad, and then dies. Like it's crazy that happens within just 8 episodes. That they can make you get attached to this character, however you do get attached to him, whether you hate him or whether you think he's a fucking lovable maniac. Just the fact that that's done in 8 episodes is crazy. Yeah. That's like amazing development and pacing.
Motto specifically, like I was saying, like I personally, when I first watched it, I thought he was going to be in the show for almost all of it, if not all of it. I did not expect him to die because he seemed, how everybody was talking about him, whether it was the ghouls or other people from the CCG, they were all saying like he was the best of the best, so I was not really expecting him to die that quickly.
Wait, what's his name? Almon? Is that the little apprentice?
That's his apprentice.
Yeah, that's the
fucking... I feel like I had a feeling he was going to die, and then the motto's like I don't teaching. I don't remember that much, but I remember him dying. It would help move like Almon's character like forward. So I think I kind of saw that coming a little bit. But
it does help. It moves a few things forward, kinda. His death immediately has impact on Amon, but
and then it introduces another new character, which is his daughter.
Yeah, it introduces his daughter.
Oh, is that
which works under Amon now.
Yeah.
Now she's his apprentice instead.
Is that Juzo? No,
Juzo is a separate entity.
Dude.
Juzo's one of my favorite characters.
Yeah, so like my biggest thing with Tokyo Ghoul and how it ends is the way that characters get carried and treated throughout the show. Thank fucking God Motto died in the first season, because if he lasted until Ri, probably would have been
insane,
fucking horrible.
Oh yeah,
because the way that Ri gets handled, it's so choppy, so rushed, and characters are so underdeveloped. That's why Motto's such a specific point out for me, is because how he was carried within 8 episodes. You get the Quinxes that you see at the beginning of Ri, and they're like, I don't know how to describe it. Maybe it honestly could be a bias, but I feel like their stories, their individual characters were just unnecessary.
You also learn nothing about them. You know
barely
nothing about
learn
any of them.
Like there's no significance to them, and in the end, it's like it almost felt like a spit in the face to have some of these Quinxes, like the dude with the triangle eye, standing next to Kaneki in like the big end, where it's like, what the fuck did you do?
I can't remember his name.
You weren't there for anything until the very end, and even then you were total side character, garbage trash butt.
Yeah, like we were talking about it when we were watching it. The most significant one, at least to me, and I feel like you agreed with me at the time, was the only one who died, which was the redhead one.
Yeah, the
I can't remember his name.
Shark tooth one.
Yeah, the dude with the shark teeth.
Him, like, so like these
was the most likable one in my opinion.
It just feels like they're totally secondary, tertiary. They're not even secondary to the plot. They're far removed from any significant plot beats. They're just there to be
a reason for Kaneki to work with the doves, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's like Kaneki or Heisei, because Kaneki doesn't really give a fuck. Well, I guess Kaneki does actually give a little bit of a shit, because Kaneki's a good person.
He still helps them out.
Heisei is just it's Heisei's squad.
He's like a father figure.
And Heisei alone is already kind of a, I don't know. I feel like, again, in the manga it's probably better, But in the show, Heisei is just a roadblock that prevents anything from going forward for like fucking multiple interactions. So like there's like 2 or 3 times that Kaneki or Heisei interacts with someone and Kaneki's like, hey, let me out, or like, hey, I don't know my memories, or like, hey, something about how Heisei is, and then he just doesn't, like, nothing comes of it until finally he's fighting. And
I remember not caring, and it was such a struggle getting through that first part of the season. One, obviously, because I was confused. I didn't recognize the characters, and then when I finally realized, oh, it's Kaneki, it was just dragging on until he finally, becomes himself again. I remember Dylan texting me when he was watching this. He texted me and Casey, and he was like talking about the beginning of the season. He's like, "Should I keep watching, bro? I don't know if I can do this or something."
It's true. By the way,
like the first half is like nothing.
Yeah, that's pretty true. The first 8 episodes, just about the first quarter.
At least the first 8, a little more, I feel like, but about that much is almost nothing. There's no significance to
it. Doesn't carry on to the rest of the show.
Yeah, it basically, if you chopped it out, it almost wouldn't affect anything.
It wouldn't matter.
Most of it is just setting up. A lot of the beginning of Re is setting up Shu, his family, and the German servant bitch, and the Quinkses. Yeah, establishing them as characters, but it's like they're just not likable characters. I don't know.
Yeah,
they could be likable characters, but I feel like they were rushed.
They seemed intrusive. They seemed like intrusive to the
story.
They were
intrusive to the fucking story.
None of them are necessarily. They don't stand out. They're either not likable or they just exist and they don't matter.
It's like, why are you there? They're annoying.
Exactly.
Why are you even here? And it brings this whole story to all the momentum to a halt when it goes into the 3rd season because you don't know anything. Like I feel like, and that's why it's rushed, because they have to add all this stuff that we know nothing about. And it's just now being introduced to us, like all these random characters.
Yeah, the first watch makes it feel like you have to learn everybody. It's like starting a new show almost.
Most of what I had written down was things that I found super undeveloped, super out of nowhere, super unwarranted. One of them was Shu's family. Shu's the blue-haired guy who is
obsessed
French
with
and
Kaneki.
gay with Kaneki.
Yes.
Okay.
His family is like rich business mogul.
Yes.
I didn't need a backstory for him. I just assumed, he's like a powerful ghoul, so he probably like fucking has acquaintances.
He's
in
the only person in the show that's called
gourmet.
A gourmet. Yes.
Like I just assumed he was a person. I could have assumed anything, but then they set up that he has like a rich family, and that's where the fucking German
I don't even know
servant
her name.
chick comes up.
Yeah.
I don't know her name. This servant chick comes out of nowhere, like she was not present, and the whole family idea wasn't present for him. She comes out of nowhere and is like, essentially, she's like the B plot. So if there's an A and B plot type setup for each episode where you have multiple things going on, she's like the B plot for the first half of Re, for almost no reason, just to die.
I remember when I watched Re, I feel like they added so many other factions that they were not fleshed out enough. Well, the clown people, were they introduced in season 3? Were they even the clown organization with the dude who makes the mask for like Kaneki and shit?
Yes.
He was a part of that. Was that present in season 1 or 2?
So like my big issue with the clowns was not just that they kind of popped up out of nowhere, because they were initially, you see them in Re in the underground like gourmet thing, where they're like the auction, they run the auction. That's fine. I can acknowledge them as being that. That's whatever. But then toward the end, they're working with the main villain, and they're all sort of focused on one agenda. And it's like, where did they come in, and like, why are they part of this? That's already kind of weird. But just even worse than that is Yuta, which is the mask maker guy, is part of the clowns and is working with the V organization big villain.
And the bitch that runs the bar.
And the girl that runs the bar.
Like
I don't even care about her because she's never like talked about really. Yuta is never like... Yuta tried to assist in saving Kaneki from Aogiri in season 2.
He went with them, yeah.
Yeah, he went with them. Why is he a villain? And then
out
in
of
the
nowhere.
end, when he fights I forget his name, but the silver hair dude.
When
they fight, he gets beat and just is immediately like,
friends.
Yeah, no, I'm chill.
Like he seemed like he was just on the fence because they never hinted him being. They never even gave a subtle hint.
There was no hint. There was no
all in the first 2
reasonable
seasons.
motivation for why. And then that goes into the V group as a whole. If you pitched the idea of this season to me and said, "Oh yeah, there's like a secret organization that's running everything,
Yeah,
and they're ghouls and they're like pulling strings for their agenda. They take control of the CCG." I would think that could be cool, but the way that it happens is like literally just one character, Arima, is talking. I think it was Arima talking to Kaneki after Kaneki beats
he beats
Arima.
him.
He's like, yeah, there's this group called the V Group, and they're working with their ghouls, and they're gonna take over the CCG, and they're it's like
because they were suspecting.
it's very choppy, sudden.
And the reason it was even brought up is because they were suspecting Arima was like too strong and fast to be a human, and then he told Kaneki that pretty much he wasn't.
And so, like, again, the V Group could be fine, but one, it's how they're brought up. It's so sudden, and within that same episode, almost, or like within the same kind of time span, the representative of V, the weirdo.
I don't know his name. He's the strongest one on the show, and he's not even
basically
shown.
he's the villain essentially.
Yeah.
He's the last guy who needs to be defeated. He just waltzes in and takes over the CCG. Like, he's established as being a CCG
member
agent.
Yeah.
Like, he's in the group. But how does he just immediately take control?
He climbs up the ranks really
He's
fast.
just like, oh, I'm the leader of the CCG now.
Yeah, out of nowhere.
Out of nowhere. And I didn't appreciate how like wacky and weird he was. He was like a comical character all the time. Like, and then he shows up as a fucking news reporter reporting on the whole thing that's like going on.
It was like almost like a Joker kind of theme.
Yeah, he's like a weird Joker, but like cartoonish, zany Joker. Overall, I just didn't like the ending. I think it is mediocre and again rushed with all these different details. It's so strange. It becomes like shonen fight anime-ish to an extent, where it's like, oh, Kaneki just fucking gets really mad and becomes a city-destroying Takuja monster.
Also, going back to the main dude or the main villain that ends up being the main villain for some reason, I remember him now. I remember that. I remember seeing like exactly thinking, I was like, this motherfucker is the big bad now.
It's out of nowhere.
Like, because that's a big thing about Tokyo Ghoul, is that it's not a very in-your-face obvious story. There's a lot of messaging and symbolism, and I feel like it's just kind of spat on. Like, the final fight where Kaneki beats that guy is just them fighting. There's no like deeper mental play at hand or some weird subversive thing going on.
There's also nothing.
Just, I'm more powerful than you and I'm going to kill you.
It's also nothing personal between them either. Like, there's no
there's no meat to that fight. Kaneki doesn't even feel like he's
They just have to fight.
fighting.
They just fight because they have to.
Well, I have to do this.
Exactly. It's more of a have to.
Gotta go to my
Like,
9-to-5 job.
well, Toka. That's what I was just about to say. Is Toka pretty much doesn't exist in season 3 until the very end, and also when she does not fight once, which is very different from her in the first 2 seasons because she was always a hothead.
She kind of fights, but
she fought a little bit.
But she's like a
but she was also a hothead too, though. Like, she'll get mad easy.
She was prone to fight.
Yeah. And the third season, she was all like weary and like hesitant, and down.
I don't. My favorite scene in the show is where Kaneki's at the new coffee shop and with Toka, and he's looking at something about like where the CCG's been attacking their bases and shit, and just deadpin drop silence room. Toka just goes, "Are you a virgin?"
Yes, that was perfect.
That was so funny. That was so. I was not expecting that to ever happen.
And he starts freaking out.
This badass.
Yeah, that was. She literally said she just followed it up with the most serious thing ever and said, "I can help you fix it."
She wants him, and that's her flow. That's her
angle
way
for
in.
the whole season, bro. To fucking suck up.
And then the sex scene itself was like kind of
so weird.
It was very strange.
They could have done it anywhere else.
It wasn't bad. I kind of like I don't know. That was honestly one of my favorite sequences was them having sex. So I was like,
I like how the room. It was also funny. Like, if you really pay attention to it, the room was clearly empty, nothing, bare. And then when they zoom out a little bit more, all of a sudden a mattress pad just pops up.
Yeah, they just have a
nowhere.
little like camping setup.
Yeah, like a little pallet.
I'm gonna get a mattress and I'm gonna set it up in the middle of a fucking parking garage.
That's how I want to lose my virginity, is on a mattress in the middle of an empty, barren room. That's what I would like.
Yeah.
On a dirty mattress, no sheet, no pillows.
That you can also spawn out of thin air.
No equipment on me. I got no condom. I'm gonna change pace and talk about the couple things that I did really stand out to me and I did like. I was about to say that. I liked Hinami being part of Algiri.
Hinami's one of my favorite
Hinami becoming part of Algiri because it's like she's trying to. I think her main motivation in doing that was to try and find Kaneki again.
Yes.
And like going out on her own, just like the idea that she becomes independent, like detaches herself from Monteku, from the coffee shop people. That was cool. I think that makes sense for her character.
She became extremely strong, by the
really
way,
fucking
too.
strong.
She can do something that is
I
only
remember-
unique to her, which is that like solar hearing shit where she can just hear and
Yeah.
see shit from anywhere, anytime. Yes.
Yes.
From the coffee shop.
Remember
Both of
the
her,
old man killed her mom?
the old man killed both of her parents.
Yeah, Mato kills both of her parents.
And
That
then
scene's so
used
fucking
and created the weapon with her parent or her parents.
Say
fucking-
hi to
Yes.
Mama. That seems
Yeah.
so.
When they're under the
dope.
fucking bridge. Yeah.
Right there, that was when, like, oh my god, I really like this old man. I like his character.
I-
but I can't
that made
That's like
me-
one of the
him after
best
he did
moments I
this.
can think of.
It's an amazing moment, but that's also why I was like, I hope he
He's like,
dies.
oh my
That
God,
moment's
that's
second
so
only
fucked up.
to Kaneki and Toga coming.
I know
but-
we were trying to transition into more of a positive thought, but I
Yeah,
have
I
one
just
more.
immediately got right back into
I have
negative
one
shit.
more negative thought, and it's just a specific character is Ayato. He became a pussy in the third season too, which is Toka's brother.
Ayato again.
Toka's
Oh,
brother
okay.
Yeah,
is
he's kinda
Ayato.
just a pussy.
He's like a hard ass, like
That's a big problem with a lot
yeah,
of
he's
remember
like a
him.
hard ass, like I'll kill anybody, and he seems super strong, and he doesn't like Toka and all that. And then literally they don't really explain. I'm not surprised, but they don't go into depth at all about how him and Toka's relationship got like rekindled. They don't explain at all. They just the first time you see them together, they just like each other. All of
Yeah.
a sudden, now they just like each other again, like
It's like-
they were kids.
Some characters I really liked, like definitely I think the best handled thing in the show, period, probably is Juzo.
Juzo's amazing.
Juzo makes a lot
forgetting
of
about him.
sense. A 2-year time skip. He's just a higher ranking CCG member. He's got his own squad.
He's stronger.
Powerful.
Yeah.
He's got like he's now developed into having so the Queen K weapons that were suits of armor, like powered
He
armor.
got from his like master.
He got
dude.
one.
Yeah.
And the guy who was his leader,
Like
his fucking
It's like a father figure kind of
his
thing.
father
to him.
figure essentially. I
Yeah.
forget his name.
I don't remember it.
That guy was
remember.
cool. It comes to light that he was not killed by the owl in season
He's like
2.
in a
He
coma.
was just in a coma. And Juzo's still committed to him.
Mm-hmm.
Like everything about Juzo makes sense. Everything about him in scenes is satisfying. And Juzo was my favorite character when I first watched the show as a middle schooler, legit. So like that was very satisfying to see him, and especially at the very end, that might have been my favorite thing to see
Mm-hmm.
from the very ending is seeing the guy waking up from the coma finally and Juzo meeting with him.
Yeah.
That was nice. That was very a very savory taste with the writing and the pacing.
Just
and
the German
tone.
girl.
That's
Just the
what
German
makes
girl.
SWAT-
Her
Yeah,
voice
like-
actor.
That was bad. Yeah, great.
I'm not
Unnecessary.
gonna say it, but like, if they wanted to, I don't know,
Not included.
publicly release her address. I'm not saying I would do anything with that information.
I don't know what
other
this
than
with
mail a
anime
pipe bomb
and
to her,
Japanese
her
voices,
address.
bro.
Bribe her to quit.
Like one thing I love so much about it is that it keeps this constant dark. I love the dark, kind of depressing kind of vibe it has throughout the show. It has its
That is-
ups and
yeah,
like
it's
positive
the
moments.
feeling, the
It's so
emotions.
dark and gritty,
Yeah.
very
It just
emotional.
feels good.
Isn't
In
it
the-
technically a
the-
horror anime?
I guess kind of, yeah. I think
Guess,
it's that
yeah.
genre.
Yeah.
And that's what makes like, this is kind of like another topic almost, but like the openings for this anime hit so hard.
Speaking of that, a redeeming quality about season 3 is I thought the intros were pretty
Asphyxia,
salvageable. Yeah.
It does a great service to
pretty
the
good.
first one. I love Asphyxia. And I was going to say,
that the
in
last
this
one?
video, real quick, what do you think of the 4 openings total? Josh, you might not remember them as well.
I remember. I used to rewatch these openings a lot. The first two, of course, I remember. But
First 2,
season three's,
because season 3 has 2 to itself.
Yeah, it does that too.
yeah, I know. I remember. I like both of them. I think I like the last one more than the third one.
Really?
I
'Cause I was
could
gonna
watch
say
them
if I had to
just
rank
see.
them right, I would go Unravel, which is the first one, Asphyxia, which is the first one from Re,
That one's really
then Manu, whatever, I don't remember what it was called, but that's the one for Route A. That's the second seasons, and then it's the 4th and final one. I don't dislike it. It's just compared to the other ones, it doesn't feel as like it. Just the other ones can drive emotion out of me in a certain way. Because I know what they like. They are attached to the narrative to me. So that one evokes the least feelings, but it's still pretty good.
You can do yours, Josh.
He's
I gotta
listening
listen
to it
to
right
the
now.
last two. I gotta listen to the last two.
Okay, well then I'll go.
I'm hyped right now. I'm a little hyped.
He's hype. All right, good. So for me, I don't know them by name besides Unravel, but I do remember them very clearly. Honestly, I would agree with you. For sure, Unravel is far and above the other three. They don't even touch Unravel, but they are amazing still, in my opinion. I like all three of them. They're all on a pretty even playing field. I would say the fourth one, the last one, is probably the worst objectively. I would say the second and third one are neck and neck. They're pretty. It's hard to pick.
Yeah.
But on top of that, I will say I know outros usually aren't focused on as much, but they are pretty lackluster, especially compared to its own intros.
I think Unravel is definitely number one.
Oh, absolutely.
I think I'm going to put the second one in number two. I think it's going to go in order. I might go in order.
Damn, so
From
1, 2, 3,
Unravel,
4.
Mono. I think it's an M word, and then Asphyxia and the fourth one.
Yeah.
Asphyxia is the one with the chick, right? That's singing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. Do we have
I'll try
anything
the
left
next.
that we're trying to add?
So, sort of to bring the discussion to a close.
Yeah.
It's with a heavy heart that I must say, I personally am not totally dissatisfied. I would say dissatisfied. That is the word I would use. I'm not upset with it. I'm just a little bit unenthused, not fucking totally mind blown like I was with the first season and even the second season to an extent. I like the second season. It's just that what I would say was probably my favorite show did not have a amazing ending, which is hard to do. I will say that's a monumental task to bring a close to a story that is satisfying to everyone and really does justice to it. That's almost impossible. So I'm not upset at it. But again, mediocre, which is what I put in the title, is like that is kind of how that's my general census. If I had to rate the show out of 10, I would give it overall 7. Still pretty high, but because it left such a sour taste in my mouth at the end that I kind of maybe I need to develop a better palate. Maybe I need to drink some fucking kombucha juice, get some bitter shit in my mouth. But it was just a little too bitter.
I will give it. It's not a totally accurate one. I would have to because I didn't rewatch it. I would give it I have to give it an 8 or something. I have to give it around like a 7.8 or something because it would be like in my top 10, top 15 show. So
How I'm gonna approach this is I don't want to be edgy or something, but it's a little bit harder. It's a little bit harder for me to do out of 10. I will try my best, but so how I approach this is, first of all, I'm not a negative Nancy when it comes to anime. A lot of people love to try their hardest to hate an anime, especially based off endings and stuff. I'm always usually pretty positive. I've seen around 40, and there's not one I dislike at all. There's not one show I have been like, I can't finish this or I didn't like it. I'd say every show I've watched is at least over a 6. So that's at least a starter. So like I said, I've seen around 35, 40, and it's still in my top 15 even after Re. And I probably like Re more than most people. Especially the first time I watched it, it still wasn't as good as the first 2 seasons, but I was like, but it didn't really bring it down that far for me. I would say it was in my top 5 at first after I watched Re. It was in my top 10. And then after I watched it a second time, I'd say now it's in my top 15. So it is sliding. If I were to give it out of 10, I'd say at least an 8. I'd say like 8. At most an 8.5.
Yeah,
that's good.
But
it's solid.
I definitely like Re more than most people, but I still don't like it very much.
you need to watch Re.
Oh, yes. Absolutely.
I needed to watch Re eventually because it does provide the conclusion that if you are attached to Kaneki, the main character, if you get attached to him, it provides you the conclusion that your heart needs.
And some of the very important characters, some of their backstory.
You'll probably, anyone who watches the show will probably be very happy with Juzo, Hinami, Toga and Kaneki, how they end.
Both the owl and the one-eyed owl were fleshed.
You'll probably be happy with how they end. There's elements to it that you need even just a serviceable ending to a character, to a story. You need the ending. It kind of just leaves you empty if you don't have it. So chop that up. I'm gonna cut out everything
Mm-hmm.
Gonna cut out everything.
Cut out the whole thing. We're just gonna put it in there and
I'm gonna
delete it.
post a YouTube short.
We talked most of the time. There wasn't a lot of like quiet time.
There's not gonna be much
There's not a bunch
editing.
of quiet.
Glasses